Hi everyone, this is the last part of this unit on electrochemistry and redox reactions. So in the last video I showed you the structure and functions of a voltaic cell. So as a recap, a voltaic cell is a type of electrochemical cell that takes chemical energy, so a chemical reaction, the flow of electrons in that chemical reaction get put into usable electrical energy. This happens as a result of a spontaneous redox reaction. Okay? Meaning once the wires are all hooked up and the electrodes are dipped into the solution and the salt bridge is in place, the electrons will flow spontaneously from the anode to the cathode. The anode is where oxidation occurs. That's where you have the electrons being lost. The cathode is where you have reduction occurring, and that's where the electrons are being gained. The way that you can determine which of the metals that make up your electrodes are being oxidized and which metals being reduced is by looking at reference table J. The element that is higher up on the list will be the one that gets oxidized. The one that is further down on the list is the one that gets reduced. So this spontaneous conversion of chemical energy into electrical energy is a battery. So this is a battery. Now, that's one type of electrochemical cell. The other type is an electrolytic cell. So we're going to take this idea of this energy conversion and we're going to flip it around. So, an electrolytic cell will allow a chemical reaction to occur if you apply electrical current to it. So, the chemical reaction is not driving the electrical current. The electrical current is driving the chemical reaction. Why would you need electricity to power a chemical reaction? You would need an external energy source of electricity if the reaction is not spontaneous. Okay? So we need to use electricity. Use electricity in order to force the reaction to occur. Now I'm going to show you a diagram, build a diagram of an electrolytic cell on the next slide, just like I did the voltaic cell. And you'll be able to notice some similarities and some differences. So for an electrolytic cell, you're going to have one container. In that container, you're going to have both the reduction and oxidation occurring. You will have a solution. You need a solution in order for particles to be moving. You will have a power source. Now, if you remember back in our classroom, RIP classroom, the lab tables on the sides where the electrical outlets are, there are those black and red knobs that we never got a chance to use. We would have used and done a really cool lab with this stuff. Those are power sources. So you could plug like a probe type plug, like a headphones type jack, that type of plug into those, and it's a source of electricity. Okay? So I'm just going to put this like a battery. Now, what's a battery? A voltaic cell. So a voltaic cell is actually needed in order to power an electrolytic cell. Now, we're going to have an electrode. And now we'll have a wire connecting it. You need that wire. Now, one use of an electrolytic cell is electroplating. Have you ever heard of something being gold plated or silver plated or chrome plated, like a car part. Like that really cool car that you probably just heard zoom past my house. That means that a metal has been coated onto the surface of another metal. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, if you're making like aeronautical parts, you don't want those to corrode easily. So you're going to plate them with a metal that doesn't corrode easily. And you might have a different metal underneath, like iron, that is very strong but tends to rust. I'm going to make the thing that we're plating a ring. If you've ever had white gold jewelry, right? White gold jewelry. Gold is not white. There is your Jeopardy question for the day. Gold is yellow. So how do I have white gold? Well, white gold is usually gold that has been plated on the surface with a layer of another metal, usually something called rhodium. Or it could be platinum. Rhodium is shiny and white metal like platinum would be. Now, why would you want white gold jewelry? Well, if you like the color of a white metal, but you don't want silver because it tarnishes too easily. And platinum is just way too expensive to get a solid platinum ring, especially in men's jewelry, it tends to be bulkier. Then you would get something that's white gold. I'll take a couple pictures and post to OneNote of a white gold ring that I have that I've had for a while now, and because of the wear and tear that you put on something like a ring that you're constantly like banging off the surface of a table, the coating can wear away and it exposes the yellow gold that's underneath. So occasionally you would take it to a jeweler and you would ask them to re-dip it. And that's what this is, re-dipping. Okay, so if I wanted to do, let's say I wanted to take rhodium and I wanted to plate it onto the surface of this ring. Let's say this is a gold ring. It could be any metal, it could be nickel. So if you bought, like, as a child, you went to like the holiday boutique at your elementary school, or you went to like a store, Claire's or something at the mall, and you're like, I am fancy and buying jewelry. And it's something that like turns your finger green or turns your neck green or your ears, if it's earrings. That's because the metal that was used to plate it was very cheap and very thin layer. And underneath, you probably had something like nickel. Nickel is a transition metal. Nickel's around here on the periodic table. Transition metals form colored compounds when they're in the presence of water. So that's where you're getting that color. So anyway, so in our apparatus here, we're going to have a solution containing rhodium ions. So maybe it's like rhodium nitrate, I don't know, something like that. Okay? When you connect the wires to the battery and clip it onto your objects, your metal that's going to do the plating and the object that is going to be plated, the reaction will start. I cannot take a piece of rhodium and in a ring and dip them in a solution and just be like, look, it's magic, it's happening. You need a power source to force this metal onto this metal, okay? So when you hook this up, the process that happens, what particle of these atoms is going to be drawn towards the positive terminal of the battery? Well, the negative electrons are. So this process, these atoms, these solid rhodium atoms that make up this piece of metal, are going to release electrons. Now, when that rhodium gets rid of 2 electrons, it becomes positively charged. What process depicted by this half reaction is this? Is this oxidation or is this reduction if the electrons are leaving? Well, this is oxidation. Now, if it's being oxidized, what is the name of this electrode? Is it the anode or the cathode? It's the anode. The anode is always going to be oxidized. It doesn't matter if you're talking about a voltaic or an electrolytic cell. If it's an anode, it's going to be oxidized. Now, when this process happens, these electrons go into the wire because that's where electrons go. What's going to happen to these ions? Well, these ions that are formed are going to fall into the solution. So these ions are going to be generated and you're going to get more rhodium ions in there. Okay, so what's going to happen to this piece of rhodium metal over time as the atoms are oxidized? Well, that piece of rhodium metal is going to wear down. Right? It makes sense. If I'm trying to take this metal and put it onto a ring, I've got to break it apart somehow to get it over there. So at the other electrode, those electrons are now going to be kicked out the negative side of the battery, which makes sense. Those electrons are going to flood the surface of the ring. Now, what are those electrons and electrodes? The electrons are going to flood the surface of that ring. What in the solution is going to be pulled towards those electrons? These positive ions. So those positive ions that are in the solution, plus there's more positive ions that were dropped into the solution as the atoms were breaking down. So at this electrode, the ring, the object that we're covering, we have the ions that were in the solution. They're going to join up with the electrons that traveled over from the anode. And when I have a positive 2 charged ion plus 2 electrons, I get the neutral atom overall. So those rhodium atoms are going to coat the surface of my object. So what should happen to my ring over time? It's going to get a little bit bigger, right? Because you have an accumulation of material on its surface. Now, what kind of reaction, half reaction is this? That is reduction, which makes this the cathode. When you are doing electroplating, the cathode is always the thing that's getting covered, right? I'm not taking a ring and putting it on top of a rhodium bar. I'm taking the rhodium bar and plating it on top of the object, the ring. So that'll get slightly bigger over time. Now, depending on the voltage of the battery or the amps passing through the power source, you can mathematically calculate how long it would take for a certain quantity of metal to be deposited on the surface. And then you could also, if you knew the time that you were running it and the amps, you could calculate the amount of the metal that was put onto the surface. So looking at this super fancy diagram, you can see differences here between an electrolytic cell and a voltaic cell. We only have one container here. We need a power source in order to force the reaction to occur. We do not have a salt bridge because everything's happening in the one container. We still have movement of electrons through a wire. We still have oxidation occurring at the anode and reduction occurring at the cathode. All right, but we're forcing this process to occur. Other uses for this process could be isolating metals from ores. There's a lot of different things. So this is a summary of the diagram. So we have one container, we have 2 electrodes, we have the anode where oxidation occurs, the cathode where reduction occurs. The wire is for the electrons to flow. Okay, so wire is always for electrons to flow from the anode to the cathode. We need a battery or a power source of some kind. You need a solution itself. For charges, the anode is positive, The cathode is negative. That's such a minute point. It's like such a nitty-gritty detail. Electrons will still flow from the anode to the cathode because of the processes that are occurring. This was a diagram from a Regents exam. This was showing silver plating onto a fork. So look, we have, it's the same element involved. There's no using table J for this to figure out what's the anode and what's the cathode. The thing that's getting covered is the cathode. The metal that's doing the plating is the anode. We have the same element being oxidized at the anode that's being reduced at the cathode. We're just flipping the reaction around. It's like a couple that breaks up and then makes up after a time. So like the couple that would be like the silver and its electron, and they're like, we're in love together forever. And then they break up because that's what happens, because, yeah. Now, they break up, they have to go their separate ways. The electron goes through the wire, the ion goes into the solution, and where do they meet up again? At Forktown. Or something, please help. All right, so it gets reduced at the cathode. So it's the same element breaking up at the anode and making up at the cathode. It's the same picture here with a key with copper. It's just showing the object to be moved. So that's just an overview of electroplating. This word electrolytic. Oh, if I could spell, that would be a bonus. Let me just do a little word dissection with you. Okay. Electrolytic. It has the word electrolyte, right? Have you ever heard of the word electrolysis as a procedure? Electrolysis is a cosmetic procedure where hair follicles are basically destroyed for cosmetic purposes through the use of an electric current. So a tiny electrical current is applied to a hair follicle one at a time. It basically zaps the hair follicle and prevents hair from growing back. So what does this word mean? Electro refers to electricity. So we need electricity. Lyse means to break. In biology, you might have remembered learning the term lysosome when you were learning that ever so important information that the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. You might have also learned about lysosomes. The lysosomes broke down worn out cell parts or toxins. The word lyse means to break. So for electrolysis, you need electricity in order for that breakdown, for that chemical reaction to occur. So there's your vocab lesson. So that rounds out the redox and electrochemistry unit. I'm going to also post a short video just comparing and contrasting voltaic and electrolytic cells, and I'll try to find some real world examples in a short video to show you as well. Take care.